Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be going back and revisiting the NECA Toys God of War 2 Kratos with Flaming Blades of Athena. Before we have a look at all the accessories that come included with Kratos, so let's get some dimensions going. The figure is approximately 7 3/4 of an inch tall. Another comparison we can make, we can move this one over and bring in the one that we just finished, just recently had a look at. This is the one that came with the golden fleece armor. The figures are roughly about the same. The arms, the legs, and even the skirt on Kratos are exactly the same. The only thing obviously different between the two, not counting the fact that this Kratos also has the Medusa's head in his hand, is the face sculpt and the fact that the golden fleece armor is on this one arm of Kratos. I haven't actually attempted to do this. I don't know if I would even attempt to do this now, but you probably could swap the heads out if you wanted to and replace one with the other depending on which look of Kratos you had. The downside though to that, and something almost the reasoning why I wouldn't entertain doing that, is if we look at the hands, I'm just going to take the hand off for a second. This was back in the day when NECA was using clear plastic for their pegs. I don't know if you can make this out or not, but the plastic, the clear plastic, has already started to yellow on the interior of the peg. I don't know if that's an indicator that eventually the plastic is going to get brittle and potentially break off, as I certainly have had that enough times happen when I've had a look or pulled out some of my original NECA pieces. A lot of them just ended up getting broken. Some of the Chuckies, of course, the Michael Myers, their arms just literally just cracked right off, and the arms ended up being loose in my hands. But those are the differences between the two. Again, there's really not much different between the two heads. I kind of like the golden fleece armor head just because it's got a more neutral, angrier expression. But this one definitely has the benefit of the more grimaced teeth, if that is so much the desired look that you're trying to go for here. Now, obviously, this figure is a little bit looser than when I initially looked at this guy back in, believe it or not, March 30th, 2010. It was a long time ago, about 8 years ago. Since then, unfortunately, his limbs have become a little bit on the looser side, primarily his ankles. His knees have also gotten a little bit loose, and sadly, of all the things I thought was going to break would be primarily these flames. The one thing that ended up breaking on this guy was his hand, so I ended up having to go in and glue his hand in place. It can't now move like the same way this hand can do, but at least it's not broken. So this guy gets some accessories. He gets essentially the same sort of blades that he got with the golden fleece armor. Same deco. In fact, don't believe me? That's okay. You don't have to believe everybody, but here is the minus the hand, of course. Here's the blades that came included with the golden fleece armor. So you'll see that they are almost mirror copies to one another. In fact, saying mirror copies might be a good assumption to make. They are almost identical to one another. I think the sculpting on them, like I had mentioned with the golden fleece armor, is fantastic. Between the browns and then the little recessed areas, got the darker brown happening there. You've got the airbrushing of the darker orange around the outer area of the yellow. Definitely makes for a fun, awesome looking piece. And I think at one point there was a company, may have been NECA, possibly, that had done a 1-to-1 scale of one of these blades. I would love to have added that to my collection. Just always a big fan of God of War. Now, he can hold these currently in his hands. Don't believe me? Just have a tough time trusting people, I guess. Other than the fact that his hand just popped out. Other than his hand just popping out, he does hold the blades, as you can see right there. Unfortunately though, and I may even take the route of doing the nail polish. Essentially what you would be doing is taking the hand off, adding a little bit of nail polish. You probably only need a single coat, let that dry. That's a big thing. And then put the hand back in place. It may make for a stiffer joint, so that I won't have the problem with the hands always falling out. But he does hold both blades. Pry this one open. Of course, this one does not have the posability in the hand. You can see that he just holds the blades normal, as is, regular. So this would be a perfect, you know, if you just want a regular God of War 2 Kratos. This is the guy that you would want to have for that. Now he does have some extra stuff. He has these things. These are the flaming chains that incorporate the blades. Now the problem with these is these are not good accessories if you have a figure that's already starting to develop loose joints. Primarily, the knee here has gotten loose on me, and I can't even describe how loose these ankles are. So I may want to pop the legs off. In fact, I don't know if I might be able to. No. Oh, no, it's using a clear peg, so I'm going to have to probably, as I notice the peg is starting to give way here, probably even have to ultimately glue the peg altogether. I thought it would have pegged out, but it doesn't look like it'd be the case. In fact, the more I pull on it, it's starting to give away from the now yellowing plastic on the interior there. But what I was going to say, I might have added some nail polish to that. He stands fine on his own, but when you start adding this extra stuff, this is where the problems start happening. I'm really surprised none of these blades, that's not true. That's not true. This blade right here, this little flame, I call it blade, little flame here has broken off. Everything else has still stayed intact. This fire has stayed intact. Nothing has broken on it. But I'm really surprised because this is some of the most brittle plastic. Can you even hear that? Hear the brittle oh, I just cringing. And cold chill up my spine as I'm doing this. This is such a brittle plastic, I'm actually surprised. I've just had these literally in bags, in totes. The first thing I figured, if anything was going to break, would have been these guys. Ultimately, though, they're still intact. Now, this, going back to a figure that's now already starting to develop a really loose leg and loose ankle, this is not one of those things you want to start adding to a figure, because it starts making the figure not only top heavy, but all of his stableness, now it has to sit on these ankles, and the ankles just simply can't cut it. The idea is you're supposed to, I'll lay the figure down for a second. For starters, you're supposed to take the blades, and they're supposed to, see this little notch right here? That notch is supposed to fit this little notch on the end of the handle. It doesn't really fit the handle, but it gives you at least some markers as to where the handle is supposed to go. And the blade kind of just sits it nestles, just like a little baby going to bed, right there. Nestles in place. I think at the one time that I had originally bought this and got this out of packaging, there was clear elastics that were attaching the blades to the flames. So you didn't have to worry about the blades falling out. But I mean, the blades, just shy of me shaking it, does stay in place. It doesn't quite line up because since then, these handles have straightened, I guess would be the best way to describe it. But if they were still kind of in their original state, you would see that the chain wrapping around the handle would still go all the way around, all the way down, and presumably attaching itself to Kratos' gauntlets, the actual forearms, in which you can see the chains have continued themselves over. Still, what you're supposed to be able to do with these, I don't know if you can see it in the camera here, but there's a hole there, and there's a hole there. You're supposed to be able to fit these in his hand, and these little pegs, oh yes, the clear plastic again, it's colored, but still, it's clear plastic, is supposed to tab into those little slots. Now, Butterfingers here, when I glued the hand, I probably didn't glue it in the best of angles, but you're supposed to be able to, I'm going to see if I can actually do this on camera, you're supposed to be able to have him holding the flames, right? Gotcha. Okay, so far so good. And then you're supposed to take the little pegs here, and you're supposed to, I'm saying it's supposed to a lot, you're supposed to be able to peg them into those slots, like that. And again, because I've glued the hand probably in the worst of angles, I don't think I can fit both pegs in place. So it does hold it, but doesn't hold it as well as it could. Now you could probably imagine right off the bat where this is going to go. What ultimately happens with a swivel joint that now has weight added to it. Yes, you could probably guess it. The bicep also has developed a very loose grip, so it just doesn't stay as stable as it should. So while ideally you could have the blades coming out to the sides of the figure, his arms fully extended like that, the bicep just can't hold it. It can't hold the weight because there's nothing holding these fire attachments up. New NECA, I say new NECA versus old NECA. New NECA probably would have had a hole, maybe like right here, or a clip. So for example, say like this one here. This is what I used at the beginning of the review just to kind of keep them standing upright. This came with, I believe, the dog alien. It's not designed, don't please put in the comments section, it's not intended for that. I know it's not intended for that. But it's, you know, if they had like just a clip and a clear stand, it could have helped out the bicep a little bit so that it wasn't putting all the weight onto that poor bicep to try to hold these up. So taking the other blade, line everything up just like so. This one I find is, once you do it the first couple of times, it's a little bit easier. Best process to do this is line the handle up, and then everything else should fit theoretically in place. There we go, just like that. This one sits a little bit easier. And hey, there's the original elastic that would have came with this. Apparently I never took it off. And then this arm, there's a hole there, and there's a hole there. And then the holes, you just line that up into the hand like so. And you just attach those little pegs into the holes. Just like that. It's just like that. And then you can twist the arm, get it to the desired look, but you're really adding a lot of stress to, again, like I mentioned, an already loose figure. Why is there pegs on both sides, you may ask? Well, that's just so that it's so that they basically use the same mold on both sides. And as try as you might, this arm isn't as bad. You can get him at least to hold the blades upright, but it does still eventually, if you have the figure on display like this indefinitely, the arms are eventually just going to droop. The biceps are going to get so loose that they're going to, you know, this isn't going to stay like this indefinitely. So while it's fun to look at this figure once again, while it's fun to have a look at this figure again, this is one of the most nightmarish figures to re-review because I have to contend with loose legs, pegs lining up with then the grip of the hand, these being overly heavy, not breaking these, and trying my best to get the biceps and arms to stay in place long enough that I can re-review this guy for you gentlemen out there and ladies. So let's go ahead and take the slot out here. And let's have a look at this guy's posability. It's exactly the same, by the way, as the Golden Fleece. So if you remember seeing that review, this one's basically exactly the same for articulation. His head rotates all the way around. A hinge up and down on the head. The arms hinge outward using clear pegs. Clear pegs, I don't know what they were thinking. The arms technically would rotate all the way around, but the big problem is, I don't know if you can see it, they put a cuff. The other figure had this too. Let me just reach off so I can show you. It also has the same problem. It's got this extra little piece here. Instead of cutting this off and leaving the joint just connecting to the torso, they add this back little tab, this extra little lip here, which means when you rotate the arm back, you have to fight it around that section there. And for an area you're really not going to see, being the back that is, I don't know why they had to put that in there. Because from the front you almost see these little extra tab points. One right there, one right there. He has the bicep swivel on both sides. This bicep a lot more stable than this one here. A hinge on the elbow. This one doesn't have any posability because I had to glue it. And this one here has the posability in the hand. Waist swivel. No split legs. Not yet, guys. You have to travel ahead in time to do that. So he only has a forward and back on the legs. Swivel on the mid-cut of the thigh. Double hinge on the knee. And like I discussed before, the foot does have a universal joint, so it hinges up and down, but I don't know if you can see it. It's starting to already look like it's separating from the peg. There's the peg on the side there. May have to glue that. So again, legs, the feet rotate back and forth, hinge up and down. And again, there's just so basically, it's like a U, goes up like this, and then you've got the peg that goes right through it. The feet seem a little bit more passable on this figure than it did on the Golden Fleece, but unfortunately, again, the ankles, the biceps are two joints on this figure that will suffer an excruciating torture by having to add these. These, maybe if you put them out, if you put the figure out on display, try to find something that you could put underneath this just to support the weight a little bit, and the fact that this swings out as far as it does, because then you're saving the poor little bicep. He did nothing wrong to anybody. You don't want to add a lot of extra stress to this little bicep here. Poor little bicep. It's okay. It's okay. And can't, of course, forget, you don't want to add extra stress to the ankles either. As beautiful as this figure is in its form and the way that they've added the fire, this is not something that NECA would approach nowadays without some contingency plans in place. More importantly, the means to properly attach the flames to Kratos' arms, and at the very least, adding some support structures underneath the flames so that not all the weight was being carried by Kratos' ankles or his bicep areas. It's a good looking figure, but this look that you're looking at right now is not going to be a look that I'm going to be permanently displaying him with. I'm even surprised that in final looks, I can actually get the arms to be as far up as they are without them giving way and these flames falling down. Again, it's a good look, but not something that I think you could accomplish nowadays with a figure without some safeties. We'll call them safeties in place. Speaking of this figure, if you guys are interested in picking this figure up for yourself, good luck. Unfortunately, due to the time it was released, and for the fact that NECA has yet since released this figure, unfortunately, picking this guy up in aftermarket means that he's going to be super expensive, and as I had mentioned with the Golden Fleece armor, this particular figure as well, you definitely do not want to be looking online for, and if you do find him, for example, on eBay, at say $14, let's give it a good $14 to $30 price point. The likelihood of that being, this figure being a knockoff or a bootleg, is very, very high. This figure probably will be closer to about a $100 price point. I would suggest, if you are looking to pick this guy up for yourself, to probably see if you can find more local sellers that are selling this, that you can kind of see him firsthand. Again, he's a beautiful looking figure, but he is plagued with a lot of problems. More importantly, more of the problems relying on the flames than anything else. Today, we were going back and revisiting a figure that I looked at way back in March. I think it was March 2010, so about 8 years ago I initially looked at this figure. Today we were having a look and revisiting the NECA God of War 2 Kratos with flaming blades of Athena. Still can't believe I've actually got him doing this right now. This probably won't last. If you guys also haven't had a chance to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so. Of course, more videos will be coming your way. Maybe not necessarily God of War related, but definitely more videos will be coming your way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.